Yes.
Okay, so that helps. I don't want to have to do it over. So what I want to do today is work on this, of course. That's how far we've gotten. And before this morning, rather, what I did was, I'm going to turn this light out. What I did was I played around with our greens. This week I was doing a little one, just trying to, have a plan myself. And I did this, not done, but, I realized that I need to be careful to keep some of these greens very light so that the poppies show up. And that's what I was sort of working on before before you came. What we have to do before that, we're going to put a few more of the darks in again. But before I do that, I want to show you the greens that I mixed and how I did it, if I can remember. Right. And you might want to do this. You might want to mix a few piles with me so that you have them like I have them laid out here. Let me just get this stuff off of here because I have my paper towels here. So the first green, and it was interesting. Again, part of the problem is the manufacturer of the green that you're using. Now, I really like sometimes the Michael Harding green, yellow. But I found in this case, when you look at the the photograph, and you see how in the photograph, especially how blue and light those greens are. I want a cooler green, yellow, green. And the yellow, the Michael Harding yellow is more like a cadmium medium in some of the other colors. So I got out Winsor Newton cadmium yellow pale, and there's a big difference. Now that it's cadmium yellow is not cadmium yellow pale, so you have to realize that. But when you look at the colors, you can see the difference. Now, this one actually is the Winsor Newton, and this one is the Michael Harding. So it's a matter of, I have Gamblin, I have lots of yellows. I have a Gamblin yellow, and at times I might want to use that. So for this one, I decided on my Winsor Newton cadmium yellow pale. So it would be from that I would mix my other colors. I do have a cadmium yellow deep, which basically is your mixture, very close, when you're mixing this with your alizarin, you're going to get that one, and probably even maybe not as orangey. Let me see what happens if I take a little bit of this and a little bit of my alizarin. It would have to be very little. I don't want to start out wrong. And start to mix that. I'm going to come pretty close, really. It's a matter of just mixing just the right amount. So if you have done your limited palette mixtures, you're probably pretty close to what I used as a tube color. I'm going to put that next to this, and it's sort of in between. You know, it would mean that I would have to add a little more. Just keep on going. You can do it. You really can. It can be done. A lot of artists use this method. So if I had a little bit of the cadmium red, I can probably brighten it up with that. It's really important, you know, that we don't just have the alizarin. But I have, because I just added a little bit of that cadmium red, I have come extremely close to that color. And when I'm mixing my greens, believe me, you're not going to know, oh, she used that tube color or she used the mixture. Very close. But that's the idea. So I have that yellow, which is your yellow light. I have the next yellow, which we did the yellow, a yellow red, and then it sort of like an orange, and then more toward the alizarin. You can also mix with your cadmium red that you have, and come pretty close to that. I think really, I don't want to use it all up. It really is important, I think, to have that extra bright tube red instead of just the limited palette with what we're doing. So that is how I started deciding what yellow I want to use and why I want to use it, and trying then to come close to what we have in the photograph. Now, I also found a photograph that I have from Meadowburn, and you'll see on this one, the colors are richer. The greens are more green. I think that it's the way the sun hits whatever you're photographing. So we're using some of those richer greens. I love this in a way. You know, I intend to do this. I love this photograph. I don't know why I didn't find it before, but so we're going to mix some of those greens so that we can just go into them. Let me put some gloves on. The first color that I mixed when I did it this morning was the regular mixture that we would do to make a green from our two primary colors. The ultramarine blue and the light, the yellow light. So if you want to do that, mix it until you have a nice rich green. I also want you to know that I am using Galkid medium. It can be the Gamblin solvent-free gel or the Galkid gel, which is the same thing except it has more solvent in it. And I think that's important. The first thing, because from now on, you want your colors to flow and to go on there easily. And if you use the gel, solvent-free gel, any medium, really, the solvent-free gel or the Galkid gel, it leaves a little bit of a shine. So I don't know, I know I suggested that you get it. So I hope that you did. And if not, it's okay. You know, we just use the Gamsol, but this just flows better. So if you have the gel, the solvent-free or the other, you take a white blob and you mix that gel with that so that everything that we do has a little bit of it in there, and this is just sort of making it more fluid. And again, as I say, it will leave a little bit of a shine on your work, which I like. So I have that. And then when I do mix my colors, if I am painting, I probably will pick up a little bit now and then and add it to what I'm doing. It thins it out just like your Gamsol will do, but it's thicker than Gamsol, so you're not just making it watery. So I have that on my palette, which so you can't see it because it's clear. It's right over here by the white, right there. I could turn on these lights. Let's see. That might be better. It's getting cloudy out there. I think that's a little better. All right. So I'm using that. You can make what they call a glaze with it. If I want to, I'm going to explain this because it's just important. Some information, that'll help. This brush is terrible. I've been using this brush and it's not cooperating. Let me get a real clean one. So if I have, just looking for another. All right, I think this is pretty dry. I don't know whether that's wet or dry. No, they're wet. But I just want to show you what happens. If I wanted just to warm something up or even make it a little bluer, make it a little grayer, I can take the gel and I'm going to do it here. I'm going to mix it with this cobalt. And I can glaze over what I did very thinly. My brush has that, but you can see here that what was underneath was dry. And I just brushed over it with the blue, and you can still see what was underneath. Mm-hmm. So you can go, so that is another advantage of the gel if you want to do that at any time. We're not going to be doing it now, but it's just a good thing to know. And and what you can also do is you have it on, and if what's underneath is dry and you say, I just want a little touch of it, I can adjust it. So that's what that was for. So just all these things are good hints for us to know, and to have the opportunity to work with that. All right, so the first color mixture is my yellow. This happens to be lemon, if you're seeing that. I had it on my palette, was using it. So I'm taking some of my yellow, which should be here, and I'm mixing it with ultramarine blue. I'll do it here. So I will move it, mixing it with ultramarine blue until I'm happy, that I have basically a nice middle green. I'm going to move that over there. It's nice. So the more yellow you add, the more it's going to be yellow green. If you want it to be a darker green, you're going to add that ultramarine blue. And if we really wanted that to be darkened a tiny bit, I might even add just a dot. I'm going to do it here of alizarin and just tone it down. But that's that dark green or that grassy green that you might see in your photograph that we need. We need that to start working on those, on the grasses. Then I did, oh my goodness. I took the yellow and mixed it with, I think some, taking some of this, taking the yellow, taking a little bit of cobalt. You're going to get a different green with that, and a little bit of that Sevs blue. And I got a very bluish green, but I'm looking at those the leaves, and in that they are not, they're just a hazy blue green. They really are. So if I take that and add white to it, and which I did, I have another green, and I'm just looking at it and saying, okay, I want it to be bluer, and I'm going to add blue. I'm going to take a little bit of the Sevs blue because it's very cool. And so we have another green, adjusting it with a white. What I've done is very yellow. I can tone it down a little bit with the, I think that's not alizarin. I'm going to take a dot of alizarin in there and see if I can tone it down. Sometimes I mix these colors and then I don't even know what I did. But I'm coming close to what I'm looking at, right? It's meant to be a very light, hazy green. It's a grayish green, that's what I want. So I can take that, I would be able to lighten it. I could take some of the other green from the, from that, just that first mixture, and find that I'll be able to get that grayish green that I want for some of the leaves. Also, that would be good. I'm going to get, where is it here? That would be good for if we're putting in some of those buds. Perfect, look at that. So how would I paint that? I would do that. I would take some of my darker green, because I'm looking at a photograph here, and I could adjust that like that, bring it down, and and then work on the stem. So when I'm done, if I said, I actually have a photograph right here that has a lot of those unopened buds, and I see that on the one side there's it's very, very light white. So, but that basic green now I have been able to use to make that pot. Now, what is going to make that stand out is contrast. So I'm going into these greens that I've mixed, and actually can take, we're going to mix one more green in a minute. I'll just take one of them that I have here. So if I want that to really, if I want it to mix with what's there, that's, you know, I can do that, but you can see what I mean by saying that the contrast of all that we do will really stand out when we get this surrounding colors, greens. And we don't want to make a halo, but it'll all be a matter of establishing a few edges here and there, and not making a halo, but all these mixtures of greens that I have, I could blend them. And there's my bud. There's my bud. Look at, that was my bud. Oh my goodness. That's not the first time. All right, so here's the bud. That's just what I just did. So keeping it loose and in there. And of course, you know, there would be other leaves and things coming out, but you still would have that bud. So that's one other hint of what we're doing. But for now I want the viridian. I'm going to leave these greens because when we get that far, if we do today, which we should get some of them, we're going to work a little bit more on the poppies, but I just want to get this part established so that you can keep on going and not just be focused on a few poppies. When I did the little one, I got carried away. I really did. It was too much. I was putting too many poppies in there. And in the end, thought, well, that was good practice. All right, so now I'm taking my viridian. I am going to add a little bit of my gel. I want to keep it pretty transparent, and a little bit of the transparent oxide red. It's what we started out with when we did that, but I just didn't really. Now I want to get it a little bit more, you know, some of the darks, which we can wipe out. And I want a nice clean brush, because what I have now in my hand has probably some white in it, and I don't want that. So let me grab another brush over here. Try to find something fairly soft. I'll do it with this. I hope it works. All right, so I think I'll leave, and I'm going to just I'm wetting that brush so that it's not completely dry. It is clean. So the color that I just mixed, I didn't mix it entirely, you know, together or complete, but I want to get some of those darks in there so that I can determine that what I'm doing is going to work. So, and there other colors are going to come over it. So even here, it's mixing with some of the greens, and it's kind of nice. So that'll work well. It's a lot on my canvas where it was, but I want to see, I look at the corners, get the corners, get a little bit of that red in there, transparent oxide red. So now I'm going back over some of the background that we've done before, and I am going to leave this just the way it is. I might go over it with you know, a stem or something, but I'm looking at my photograph, and I hope you are too. I'm looking for all those areas where it is really dark, you know, where you need that dark green. And it's always good to have that earthy reddish color. You try to avoid, you know, your poppy outlines and whatever you want to call it, but I'm going to do the whole foreground. I want to get that in there so that when I get that far, I'll be able to put those, anything in the, on top of it, but it's very loose. It's looking, I'm just trying to make it look like underbrush. Let's put it that way. I want it to look like underbrush or part of the ground. So that's why I said every so often, if you do get some of that dark in there, it can be blended in and look like it's growing out of the ground, which is what you want. You can always take it and take another brush, maybe soften it if you want. Looks like that had some, I just got a little red on it, but I'm gonna keep going with that. Where's that brush? What did I just do with it? Here. I want to make sure that I'm getting the corners. And another thing I'm going to do right now, before I go anywhere else, especially here, right? This is like we're looking through. There will be some up here. We can always do that later, but I especially wanted to get this feeling here so that I could determine and compare. Do I have to make something lighter or darker or brighter or whatever? But what I want to do now, I'm going to bring it right up to here, is just pick it up, and hopefully I can find my tool so I can write my name in it and not have to struggle with that when I'm done. So I think I'm okay with this, just a little bit softer right here. So now what I'm going to do, forbid the thought I should, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I'm going to try it this way. No, I'll have to do that later when I can take it out. It'll stay pretty wet for quite a while. So in the end, you know, I have this very secure in on my easel, so I don't want to you know, disturb that. But all right, so but I do have a nice foundation for some of my greens. But then now we're going back to the reds. And I am going to make sure that my brush is really clean, really, because I was using green, and if I put red on there, it's going to dull the red, and I don't want it. So if you take your brush, put it in your Gamsol, take your paper towel, I'll get rid of this. Paper towel, squeeze it, put it in the dirty Gamsol, then in the clean, and I really pretty much have this brush very clean, really not bad. So what I'm doing now is we have the reds. I have alizarin. I have, that's here, but now there's a lot of color in it that I don't want. I'm just going to move it over here. Alizarin. I have a cadmium red. Actually, I have a cadmium red deep, again, it is a matter of how you're mixing the colors on your palette. You may not have cadmium red deep, but if you take your light, mix it with the alizarin, you're going to get a deeper red. That's what you want. But we want this to be less purple, want it to be more in the red. And I have crimson red, which is, basically we had that red, and I think that might be the red, the tuba red that we bought. Was that Grumbacher? So the way to bump that up is this. Watch. So if you don't have the crimson and you just have this red, how am I going to get a color close to that crimson? I'm going to go to my next color of the yellow and start to add the yellow to it. I think that's, and then in the end, I would have to take the yellow from the tube. So all of it, no matter what you're doing, if you have that red, that crimson, which cadmium crimson red, which I suggested, it just makes it a little easier. It's a very bright red, and that's what I want. When I look at this one, the poppies that are on this, oh, there's Abby, I lost it. All right, whoops. When I look at this one on my iPad, those poppies, have more of a reddish orange and yellow, so it just depends on what you have on your photograph. But it's always about contrast. So we're going to start by taking a little bit of I did these already, and I'm not done. I'm not. I know I'm going to have to adjust them. I was just playing with them. So I'm taking the alizarin is my dark, where I see, even in that photograph, there's not an awful lot of contrast, but we have to establish something. So it's on the bottom. I'm taking the alizarin, establishing that bottom, and here I'm going to do that one. These are really, I'm going to put the darker red in, but then I'm going to go start with the middle red, right? Get it in there, because the last color red is the lightest. It will be thicker, and we might adjust it with bumping it up with some yellow. So what I'm doing now is I'm trying to paint loose too. I don't want it to look like a photograph. So trying to just keep things a little, little loose. Where do I want it light? Where do I want it dark? And then I'm going to get those reds in there. So another thing, which we did discuss, was that you want to get the center of your flower first, so that if there is, some of them you don't even see the center of the flower, others you do. And I had a black, the chromatic black, but the black, I'm using a chromatic black But how do I get that? Well, chromatic means it's comprised of all the colors. So if I'm using this, which is from a tube, if I don't have it, what I will do is I'll take my alizarin, my blue. I'll show you a couple ways that you can do this. Alizarin, I don't have enough of it in there. And I'm going to take just a touch of the yellow, just a touch, because I don't want it to be purple. I really want it to be a dark, and I'm going to do that on my sample. That's chromatic black. Why do I say that? If I take white and pull it out, I'm going to get, see, I'm looking at it very closely, and mine has a lot of, you know, sort of edging toward the violet, but that I couldn't do any better than my tube. There's the tube black. There's, and they're both chromatic, meaning if I'm not going to get a pure black, white, gray, it will always have, you know, some of those colors in there. With this one, there is another, I don't think you can see the difference. There is really, when I'm looking at this, there again is more of an alizarin, you know, a reddish in there, but you would never know it. Mixing the colors the way I did, you know, with the ultramarine blue, the alizarin, and a touch of yellow, I'm getting even more chromatic, which is nice, really. Let's see, I'll lighten that up. And you can see that my mixture here has more of the red in it. This one here has more of the blue in it. If I wanted to change that one from the tube, I could just take a little bit of the red, and you know, and you can change it. Whereas if you have a black and white, you know, a regular tube black, like ivory black, it will be dead. It'll be a dead black. This black will have life. So that's what you should do. And I'm going to use that mixture that I just made, if I can find it. And I am going to use that if I need where. So take your brush and look at your poppies and look at where you need that and put it in. We can always lighten it or darken it. There's one here on the picture I'm using, and there's just a hint here. So be careful not to overdo it. We're suggesting. So now I know where the center is. I have to be very careful now when I put the reds on that I don't mix that together with it, but I at least have established that. Give you a minute to do that, to mix that color. I'm going to give you a few minutes to mix that color. Alizarin, ultramarine blue with a barely little touch of yellow, because the blue and the alizarin are giving you purple. You need the yellow to neutralize it, and then you have the centers for your poppies. You're not even seeing the whole top of my painting. Let me just see there. No, more. Well, I'm gonna focus on where I'm painting. If you see, I'm trying to, you can see that the canvas goes further than the area that I am really working on and showing you today, you know, that we're working on. So if I wanted to get the top part, I think I just have to do this. There you go. Now you're seeing the whole canvas. That's better. Anything here that I have to show you, I can always crank it again so that you can see that. I can always, if you say, please show me your palette, all I have to do is tip the camera so you can see it better than what we're seeing, you know, see completely. I have my very dark green way down here. This is the first green I mixed. The black I have way down on the palette, and just tip it. No, this way. No, I don't want to find that. I can't get it back. Let's see. Yeah, here, look at this. This is my black mixture, my chromatic black that I mixed with my limited palette colors. I'm going to leave this just about where it is because I think you can still see what we're working on the canvas and the colors that I have mixed. When it comes to this area, I just thought of something too. You know, if you take your tool, you can actually pull out some lighter weeds if you want. We're going to be doing, you know, we're going to be putting them in, but I just want to show you that when you're doing any of these kind of paintings, that these tools are really good to have. What I just did, I can very easily leave or get rid of. But I do, you know, I did want that base. And I always like to keep my corners, you know, some darks in the corners, especially on the bottom. There will be other areas where we're going to add that color, but because it's just that basic mixture, it's not like you're going to have to say, oh, how did I do that? Very easily, you know, you just mix the same color again that you had before. So that's what that is. This will have other greens in it, other, you know, warm and cool. I also, when I looked at the picture, at the one that we're using has a path, and in the end, I might decide I want to do that. I don't know. I don't want to put too much in it. So at this point, I'm leaving it the way it is. But I just did now the alizarin, right, for this poppy. And now I want to, so that's this color, you know, your darkest red. So now I'm going into the next red. And I'm going to pull up or go down. Maybe I'll go down into the shadow. And that's the dark side. Always a contrast. But that's very dark. So now I'm coming. That poppy doesn't really have too much of a center. I'm going to put a little dot in there because I can see it like here. One of the reasons for establishing the center is that the stem always is exactly under the center. So if you put your center here and put your stem coming out that way, it's not going to work. All right, now I'm going into the brighter red that I have, and I'm going to start to put that in, trying not to mix too much of it. And just getting enough on that I have the shape of a cup. Some of this dark probably is down there. Now, if I want to take that and get the real sunny part, like I did on this one, very clean brush, which this is not anymore. It's so important when it comes to something like this, that your brush that you're using just for that color until you need it for something else, of course. But I have this brush here is nice and clean. So I'm going to reserve this for my brightest red. My brightest red, I am going up the scale, right up to the cadmium yellow light, the light, you know, the real lighter yellow. And I'm going to put that where it's needed. Look at that. I can just take it. I can get it thicker and I can bring it down where I want it. I could, even though that is dark, I have to, you know, I can take it if I have enough of it. Sometimes I get so stingy with these piles of color. So if I take this now, I made it lighter, no white. I'm not using white on this for now. And I'm going to lay that on real thick. I want to paint thick and loose. So look, the way to do that is I'm pushing, you know, the darker the color, you don't need thick paint. But when you come to these lighter colors, if you want to get that dimension, then just take your brush, push it like this. That's what I'm doing. I'm pushing it into the paint that I have mixed. I have gotten a pretty nice, I don't know if you can see that. No. A bead of paint on there that's it's pretty thick. So, and the thicker the bead, the better off you're going to be able to lay it on. And you can't, like, you have to hit it and leave it. So I'm going to hit it and leave it right there. Nice and thick. I got a pretty big copy. I might have to cut that down later. I don't know. When I was working on a smaller one, I decided that part of my problem was I wasn't making the ones in the foreground big enough. Look at that. That just putting that last really light red on there made that poppy pop. So we want popping poppies. And I'm going to just do a little bit here. And I think this would have an edge like that. So I'm liking it. We're going to keep on working on this part of it. All right, I have this one I started just before, and I'm working on that now. And I'm using the same reds, combining them. That one actually has, you know, comes down. And it doesn't have to be exactly like your photograph, okay? If it's closer, it will be. That one's just sort of starting to open. This one here, I see on my photograph, I see a lot of very light, you know, where it has a sheen. This one, if you saw that, you know, when you look at that photograph, it has that sheen. So I'm going to try to establish that with a little bit of white. It's definitely, and making it a little bit more in the orange family, but definitely whiter. Let's see. Yeah, that works. So I used the yellow. I used the middle yellow. So you're going, this is your main yellow. This is your mixture as you go down. So you take a little bit of that, add it to some of those reds, take a little bit of the white until you think you have the right thing, and then put it in. I got that one a little bit too bright, I think. Maybe not, I don't know. But I'm trying also to establish, you know, the different reds, because they're not all. I'm going to put this picture up. I'll show you. This is a very close up of it. See, look at this. Look at that. Look at the orangey yellow here. I don't know if I think you can see that. Look how, oh, there. Look how red this is and how orangey. So look for those things. And even though we're doing it, you know, we're doing this, the poppies in our painting are very small, you can still get that in there, just here and there. In the photograph that I have in front of me, the one that I altered, as it goes back, there were some pink poppies in there. And we'll have to decide on that when we get there. But for now, what we're concentrating on are just getting some of these most important ones established. Now I look at that one and I see that this part right here is darker. I'm looking for where I mixed all those reds, and I'm going to establish that edge and get that in there. And again, this is pretty close to where we're standing. And I have to get, so look at it. I mean, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, okay, I got carried away with that orangey light color, but I can adjust that. One, two, three, let's see. These two here are just tucked in the photograph. They're just tucked in there. So I'm looking at them. I'm just going to establish them as two different poppies by separating the edges there and here. Because we're gonna have to put a few of those in there. Every time I choose a painting, a picture for us to work on, I think, okay, this one's easy. It's never easy, right? So it's just a matter, it'll take us a while to get it done, but we will do it. All right, now I still want to deal with this one. And this over here is a cluster, and I see a lot of pink in there. So how would I do that? Well, if you take, I'm going to show you how to make a pink. You can do it with this brush. So I'm going to take my red, cadmium red, just a touch of alizarin, I think, and my white, and see what I get. So I'm getting a very red pink, but it is still. So I've gotten a pink there. If I want to make it even more pink, sometimes, a lot of times, I would use permanent rose, which isn't a bad thing to do. But I can adjust this until I have a pink. I'm going to see what it looks like on here. It's probably too dark. Yeah. So I'm going to work with that. I'm going to try adding a little bit more. No, it can't be. It can't go up into the yellow. I have to be careful. I have to be careful that if I were to make a pink out of that, let's see what I did there. It's warmer. It isn't bad. So you can go up the scale a little bit, but I just want to establish some of those. And it's not a bad match, but let me show you something. Right. So if I'm going to use some of those pinks in there, get the white edge. Say, I'll just use that as an example. And you say, well, that doesn't look like anything, but watch. It's what you put around it. So if I'm doing some of those greens, and as it goes back, it does, I don't want to use that brush. It does get more more blue, more cobalt or whatever, some of these blues. But I just want to show you what happens when I wish this brush would be clean. Just give me a minute. I want that pink to stand out. It's just a matter of getting a little bit of dark around it. So I'm looking at all these greens that I have mixed. If that initial green I want a little darker, I'll just take a little bit of the darkest green I have there and get it in there. But see how when you start to put the colors around it, you'll be able to judge what you still have to do. With that one, I definitely have that, but I'm going now back. I'm going back, looking at my photograph, getting a little bit of the mixture of these two reds, because there is a lot of red in the base of the cup. But you'll be able to see those pink poppies. All right, I'm going to continue. Let me just sit down for a minute. I'm going to sit down for a few minutes, let you catch up, and also let me know if you have any questions. See, that pink is going to work. I made that very tiny, and I really think it has to be bigger, the pink. And I do want to add it, because the photograph does have that variety, and it actually has irises I don't know if you, I don't think we have to bother with that. I think we're just going to make it poppies and scatter them as we go back. This is very bright red, but when we start to filter in, whoa, no, now I just went and put green on the brush that I didn't want. All right, if I take my green brush and just want to show you what's going to happen here. Ultimately, we're going to come back and establish so once you quiet it down, I think that our reds also will quiet, won't be as, see, when that's dry and we come back with the green, if I feel I have to cut off something, cut off, I say, all right, I'm going to come in and break up that. I am going to take off that. But see, because the contrast now of the unpainted background and our poppies is so distinct, it's hard to judge. Do I have it? And I think when I'm sitting now and going back, I always have to look at it. And I see that just by showing you that when we come back to work on some of the greens, and you can sort of go back and forth with your brush. Now I'm going to put a little green in there. Now I'm going to go back to the red. But the thing is, I can see where there's too much contrast and where there's not enough. So I want these foreground poppies to be the most important ones. And as we go back now, I am just going to put the pinks in, put the reds in where they are, put the greens in, and work on it that way. I think if I did decide that I made it too bright, I don't know. I want that contrast. I don't think so. All right, I'm back. I'm back to poppies and looking at those pinks. I'm gonna now try to get some of them back there, and they are really light. I think they're pretty light. Where do I want that? So is this one? So if you have that red, then it's a matter of the light, the red edge, and sort of blending it. And I think some of them have to show up. So I'm really starting out a little bit with the darker red on that, and then I'm going to my pink, and I'm going to put it on. It's a lot of white. I've got a lot of it mixed right over here with the white. That too much. A lot of white on those too, Let's see what happens. 1, 2, 3. I'm trying to space them so that it leads the eye out. And of course, as it goes back, they are going to get a little smaller. I want to cluster some because they are. So we have pink. I think there's some red here. Maybe I'm just going to put that there. Wow, the one in the back, there's even one that in the back, very, very white. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go over. That's too dark. I'm going to put my pink one there. Pinkish, almost white. So where's my center? Right here. Wiping my brush, and giving that a bottom. Too much, not. Actually, that one happens to look very white. In the end, you can change things, but I like the mixture of the pinks and the reds. This is all going to be in those grasses. So I'm just putting a few colors here and there. I do want to put a few more red poppies as it goes back because they are a mixture in the photograph that I'm using. As it goes back, I see there's one. I'm going to put one. Let's see if it goes here. I want to put one about here. And I'm going to use the darker red and then bump it up. Put it in there like that because you don't really see the middle there. And then as they go back, they would get a little bit grayer, I think. So let's see what happens. I'm still using these mixtures that I did make. And I'm going to take I'm afraid to do this. I'm going to take a tiny bit of the blue-green, just a tiny bit. This blue-green that I have not mixed here. Let's see, one of these greens. And go back to the red. So I used a little bit of that very light green that I had mixed. And I just want to see if that does what I want. And still, you know, keeping that red. It's pretty dark. I think we have to be careful of that to get those darker reds and yet highlight it with a true red without a lot of detail. There's no detail back there, not really. Might have a white edge on some of them, but the key is step back and see where you're leading the eye. See where you're going with this painting, right? That's a pretty good red. Well, I want to use that. They're really the same reds that I was using. Initially, I just took a tiny bit of the green so that it's you know, grayed out a little bit, and yet I'll go back with my brighter reds and touch it here and there. 2, 3, 1, 2, let's see, 1, 2, I have to look for something, I have to get some in here. They're gonna also go into the background, you know, into the greens. Okay, step back. Contemplate. Yeah, you know what? When I look back, that's very interesting. And I'm looking at those reds that I just mixed for the ones that are in the distance. Definitely what I want. And what I did was I toned down the red with a barely little dot of that light green that you see on. You can actually, if you look at the palette and you look at the reds, and then you look at these, I'm going to do with my finger because it's coming out real good on your screen. So I had this green mixed, which is, you know, it is the green, and I just toned it down with a little bit of cobalt when I mixed it, and some white. So it's a very light green, and you can see right here, you can see that red. That's what I just took this brush, touched that, and went into the reds with that. You know, they're these. So it's these colors, but with a touch of that green in it. And as they go back, they are grayer, although, you know, it's not looking like gray, but they're not as bright as the ones in the foreground. So if I am concentrating on this, if I were, and shaping these things, I can even just say, all right, I'm gonna, you know, get a few. When I come back with the green, you know, the leaves and all that, I will be able to shape out whatever, you know, leave out. Like here is, say I want to make, I think it's just important now to get those colors in there and realize that we might not leave the whole, you know, that whole shape. I'm just trying to fill this out now, and I want the eye to lead us from here, around here, back, and then you look at your photograph and you will see those reds that now are, of course, smaller, same size poppy, but it's taken us into a field of poppies that are back here, you know, like this. And you can not make it dots. What I'm trying to do now is establish just an area. I will come around it probably with other colors, but I am not now making a poppy. I'm making an area of colors that will indicate that there's a big area of that. Okay, sit back. Okay. Now I also know that I am going to take some of those reds. I know that I have to look at, I don't know how you cannot stand back, really. I know that I have to get this in here, you know, not fill it in, but that there are not, it's not just a line. I wanted to people to know, well, it's all part of this greater area of poppies. And I guarantee you that I have to sit back and look at this when I'm not talking and teaching, so that I can decide, is that enough? I mean, is that enough of my poppies? I do believe I need, and I see one in the picture, in the photograph. I'm going to put one probably about here. I see one that is more defined, and yet not, it's not really as well defined, I guess is the word I want, as, you know, that much in focus as the ones that are in the foreground, but it has to be a little bigger. And now I'm coming with the light. I think I have to take a little bit of this. A little bit of this. So if you have these reds, it's interesting. What I'm doing is all those reds are all here. And I'm just going back and forth and saying, oh, you know what? I think it would be better if I just get that touch of the edge, which we can do very easily. Watch, I'm just taking a lighter red and highlighting an edge, which I would definitely, you know, we'll do up here a little bit. Let me get this clean. The ones back there, when we're that far, just make sure you got a good edge on your brush. And I see how this one, look at that. And you start to see some of the cups, and I'm gonna put the pink there. I think I'm gonna probably have more pink. I just, as I said, for me, what I have to do is I'm going to have to, yeah, taking shape. It is. In the end, we're probably gonna say that part was easy. Just wait. All right. I see also in the foreground, which I am not going to do right now, but in the foreground poppies, I'm going to make sure that I have some of those lighter ones. I'm going to get the photograph that I'm using, and that's probably what you're doing too. But while keeping those main ones bright, I want to get some of these pinkish and sort of alizarin over here that I want, so that you know, it's not just this little cluster here. It's a big area of poppies. But I will be doing that. I probably will have to do that on my own, so that I can, not in your face, sort of. You know, I'm going to put them, I'm going to put some over there. And you know, I could probably, and the truth is, if I don't do that, I don't do it today while I have those colors, I'll never get those colors back again, right? So think about that. Think about how hard it would be to get those colors remixed and take the time to get the basic pink ones in there. The red's not as hard, I don't think, and maybe maybe the pink ones won't be either. See, now this one, this is a cluster of a few that are sorted together, and I want to get them in there. Where is it? There's a little, that. There's one coming here. And then I'm going back into my reds. Color there, some over here that are going to show through. And once again, stand back. Make sure I have something there because there's a pink one there. I'll just get the basic color in. So the pink ones, I got to be careful too because I'm just making them all the same size. That's what we have to be careful of. They aren't all the same size. Okay, that's it for that. Let me see what I did. I'm getting there. It's at this point that I can take out something I don't like. I'm going to stand back. See, I'll probably break these up a little bit. I don't know if I can do much about it now. You can even paint with a Q-tip if you have to. Works great, really. You know, if you're just moving something around. And all right, let's see. And that's going there, but I see what I want to do is get that a little bit bigger one there. Right like this. That's the bottom. Then I'm going to come into the top. Where am I here? Watch out also that you're not on an even level. See, this poppy's here, this one's down a little further. You don't want to make like a straight line of poppies, and you don't want them all the same size. Now I'm going to do this one. And I'm working with these reds. And it actually has a little bit of a center, and I think I marked it, but not very well. And again, it's coming out a little bit with the brighter red where it's needed. Here, orangey. And then underneath, right? This is the base. That's my base. Keep on wiping my brush. And now I'm just going to get this sort of suggested. I can always go back, always fix it, adjust it to what I want, but they do overlap. And then this one comes up higher. Okay, back. See if I'm happy with what I did. Almost. Okay, I think in the end, I might want to have a path. I don't know. I have to decide that. If I did, it's a good time to wipe it out. Okay, so I might adjust some of these reds, but trying to keep it loose enough. And I think I just want to get a little bit of a hangover petal here. And again, go back. Okay, that's a little better. What even would have been really good, which I could still do, is put one really looking at it in the front. Again, what's happening to me is I'm looking and say, oh, I should put more here, more there, and it might not be the wise thing to do, really. So for now, I'm going to leave it this way. As I said, if I wanted to put some of the earth in there, I could, but I'll just, I don't know if that's dry. I want to be able to wipe it, to get rid of it if I didn't like it. So I do have a very earthy color here. It might break it up in the end. Oh, gee, got this brush in that. I may be sorry I'm doing this, I don't know. The photograph does have it in that it's very gray. As I said, what I'm doing now, I can always wipe it out. But I don't know, I might want to establish that as a path. What do you think? And then it would go up, you know, you would just basically, what it's doing is showing a little bit of the earth. I am gonna do that, all right? I have to work on what colors, but right now, I actually have a raw sienna. So it all can be done with the colors that we have. I'm now making it too light. Nuts. So you have it good, and then, so it's really a reddish brown. And it would show through. So you can do that with your transparent oxide red and a little bit of the Viridian, just a little, and the white, and see what we get. And you get a very earthy color, very good. So if you want to take a little bit of blue, cobalt, I'm trying, just let me mix these colors and then tell you what I did. And then the white, and I have see, I can get an earthy color with that. And I can lighten it with a little yellow. But just to show you that in the end, it'll just break this up and get a little earth in there. Might be nice. Kind of like it. So look at the photograph actually does have that sort of it in act, you know, when you go there, if you go to Meadowburn, there are paths. The gardens themselves, I want to work on that. I'm liking getting a little bit of earth that will show through here and there. So they have these garden plots that are probably 3 or 4 feet wide, and then there'll be a path in between where you can walk and you know, and walk in between the two separated sides. So I definitely will decide what color I want to use. I am going to put some of them in there in the end because it's breaking it up a little bit, that it's, you know, that it's not just splotches of color. So I can mix those colors and, you know, think about them a little bit more before I suggest what you should use. But see, even by what I just did, when I stand back from it, I like it. The definitely what would happen with this is the colors, the weeds and the grasses will cross it. So suppose I were working on that, I can take my brush and bring those grasses over that, and it just makes it more, I think. So right now, because it's wet, it's just getting, you know, it's just too muddy. Maybe not. But I am going to break it up a little bit with this, a little bit of earth showing through now and then. And then, you know, over here, it comes back into the greens and the stems and some of those darker reds, right? Where you might see them sort of poking through. Okay, looking at what I did. Yeah, I like that. I like that better than what I had. I might have to adjust it in a way, but I definitely want that little bit of earth showing through. Great. That's going to make a big difference in the end, believe me. And probably, when I do come back, now I've just established some of the earth colors. It's just if I decided, okay, I know you're going to see some here. I know you're going to see some here. And it will just, again, be something else that will lead your eye into the painting. This is actually right here in the photograph that I'm looking at. It's really separates that poppy, these two. And I'm liking it. So in the end, I'm going to use those and I'm going to bring grasses over. And it's helping establish a foreground. Nice, I like that. Yeah, that's what I want. Really, something like this should be planned ahead. But I don't know about that because this way I can lay it in and not have it so, I don't know how to explain it. I don't want it to be, oh, look here, I'm going to draw a path. I'm losing, right? So here's another thing. What you want in a painting is what are called lost and found edges. So if I said, oh, look, there's a path, and I place, and I make this area of the path, and in perspective, it would go, we'd go back, and it's wider in the front, and make it. What I'm trying to say is, if I make a path like this, and I say to you, okay, there's a path that goes like this. And just like, suppose I'm going to draw something just so I show you what I mean. My path goes like that. So if I do that, as opposed to just dropping in some of these colors of the earth and softening the edges, and sometimes having more of a defined edge, it's going to be looser, and you're going to have lost and found edges. I like that. And I like what's going on there. I just have to adjust some things that, you know, I would probably say, right, I'm gonna put that, show it here. And it might even be at this point, might even be better to wait until, you know, till you're a little further along so that you can put that in there. I know that I'm gonna do it. And it sort of made, it bottomed out the foreground, and I like that. I like that idea. I definitely, as it goes over that path, as it goes over, there might be a little area, you might see a tiny swatch of color show through here and there. And it's a good way to make an impressionist type painting, if you know what I mean. I'm trying to be loose. I like what's going on. I know there's an awful lot to be done on this. And I know also that it's a matter of being very careful. When we come to that background, there you're not going to see the leaves or the blades of the grass. We want to have a quiet spot, so to speak. The trees in the photograph, I might even, I don't know, I might want to put a little touch of sky in there. And I have to be careful, to be very careful not to overdo it. The truth is that where, you know, if you were there, this is exactly what you would see. Those trees in the background are a barrier between the garden part and a field that of hay that they have, you know, in the background. So if you start to do too much with it, it's going to lose the effect. But I'm so glad that I did what I just did. Transparent oxide red with a little bit of cobalt blue and a little touch of green, which made it earth color, brownish gray, warm gray. And it's there. I know that I'll want to hit some areas and saying, look how the sun is hitting the edge of the poppies. It also would probably just glint a little bit in that path without getting picky. That's the only word I can think of. I don't want to get picky. But I love my foreground so far. I really do. It's just, you know, as you work and you look at it, you say, oh, this just isn't working. I'm looking at what I did today and I know it's going to work. I do. So, all right. So do you have any questions? Anybody have any questions? Or?
Carolyn.
Yeah.
As far as putting the poppies in the background, you just like.
I just pushed my brush.
Okay.
I'm not making the shape of a poppy. I'm making an area.
Okay.
I'm making an area. You're seeing, if you're seeing what I'm seeing on my screen, the colors on the screen are a little bit brighter, or you know, they're a little softer in the painting. Let me just see if that helps.
I understand what you're saying.
So, but I really, you know, I'm pleased with the idea of opening up that little bit of area in the foreground.
Right.
I think that's really important. And all I have in those background poppies are, you know, brush marks. That's what I want to call just a brush mark.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
No, it's fun.
I'm glad, Brian. I'll tell you, what's today, Friday? When Friday night comes, I just plop on the couch. You know, talking for 2 hours is you know, it takes a lot of energy.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, right. And you're much
It's a
younger. Hey, you're much younger than I am.
no,
But
no, but it should be a rewarding tired though, right?
Yeah, it's a rewarding tired.
yes, that's right. Exactly, exactly. I'm
Right?
just so glad, you know, when Ralph is gone, I really do miss him. I really do. It's your, you know, I don't have to keep telling him what to do. Oh my goodness, let me turn this off. I don't want to record this.